Morning, guys. Gardening on the West Fork, Zone 6. And we are having a gorgeous day in August. And it's time to do an update on all the pots we planted back in the spring, how lush they're looking, and then we'll do a walk through the garden and see what the transition looks like when you go from summer in a perennial border cottage style to what fall looks like. So let's get started just here on the deck. There you can see pots all around me. You can see pots in the corner, and that pot in the corner is just parts of my perennial plants. Those are the ferns, the hostas, and I threw a little begonia in there for a little pop of color, and it stays there year round. This is its second or third season. And then I just spot things around the deck just to add some interest when we're up here. And I love the chartreuse green in these corners to give some color. And all I do with my pots, I keep them consistently watered. By that I mean I water every day all my pots that are on the deck, on the walls, in these large containers, and then I fertilize also once a week. I use Miracle Grow, the powdered form, mix it in my jugs. You can see jugs everywhere. But what I want to encourage anyone with a small garden like I have is to put trees in pots. And this PG hydrangea tree has just been fantastic. You can sit on the deck. It is faded to its pink. And we love it. It's beautiful.
We got it as a gift.
We got it as a gift. Yes, Steve. Steve just brought me one day one of these. I have the best friends that like to share their plants. I think gardeners share their plants. When you put a specimen tree in a pot, you always want to be at least 2 zones below your zone. We're zone 6. The PG is 3 through 8, which is fantastic. And then I've planted a dappled willow, and it is a 4 through 9. But my pots of annuals are doing fantastic. This is where everything just gives you so much color, and they're at their peak. And these will give us color as long as you keep them watered and fertilized till the frost, which could be October. So that's what we're doing today. I'm going to show you some of my pots, how they're doing, and then we'll do a walk through the garden. But let's go up here before we go up front. So this is the dappled willow, and it is 4 through 9, and it's going to do great right here in this pot. When I'm sitting here now, it just adds so much height and color and texture. Everything else is doing great in the pots. The herb plants, strawberry plant. This is just an annual I purchased just so I could cut and put in vases, and I'll think of the name of this annual. I'll put it on the screen. My dahlias are starting to bloom again. This one went through a flush of bloom. This one hasn't. I have a lot of foliage, so we'll see how well it does. You know, I kept them last year. Maybe I won't continue with keeping dahlias. We'll see. So let's go around front. I want to show you the planter that Reggie built for me and how lovely all those flowers are doing too. Come on. So here is this wonderful planter box Reg built for me this year. And my first attempt at planting it, and it did what I wanted to do. I didn't want anything too high or anything that draped too low. And for my first attempt, I am so pleased with the color choices. Reggie is the one that said, let's put some black in it. And these petunias are the perfect size. They're not a wave petunia, and they're not a vista supertunia. They stay compact, and that's what I wanted with all of my plants, to stay compact, all shades of green, grays, and whites, just to show off against the house itself how lovely it is. It doesn't block the windows, and I'm excited about this. Again, I just water this once daily and fertilize once a week, and it has maintained beautifully. So we're going to head around back and look at all the other pots. The ferns are doing great. So let's go around back. Look at this, guys. This is Look Here Mary. She's amazing. A late bloomer this time of year. It's the color that I like and we need, but it is what makes us gardeners so excited about having a garden when you have that kind of bloom this time of year. And this garden's doing so well. It's mainly my heucheras, and you can't beat them. They add such a pop of color. But look at these pots. Anyone who has a small garden like I do, throw a cherry tomato in a pot, some Swiss chard, basil, it all looks beautiful. And then behind you, of course, I feel has been the most magnificent pot that I've done this year, only because of that sweet potato vine. Amazing, just accenting that piece of art. Who knew it would get that long? I didn't. So anyhow, before we get into the garden, look at the bees, the butterflies. That's why you plant petunias. And these plants, with consistent water, a little bit of fertilizer, they'll look like this all through October till it frosts. All right, meet you in the garden. So now we're down in the perennial border, and August is such a change for me because my perennial border is definitely June, July, full of all this magnificent color. But I also love the subtle color change and the growth that you see in these borders. And right in front of me are these wonderful morning glories that I started from seed, and they're doing what I knew they would. They just soften all the arches and the pergolas, and I'll show you before we end how it's even softened that edge of the compost pile. But as we go around here, you can see the butterflies, and no, I hope there's not a death of a butterfly from Rip. But these are the lilliput zinnias that have just put on so much growth. Oh my. So anyhow,
well, that's how zinnias get broken.
That's how zinnias get broken, and butterflies, thank goodness they are quick to move. That was action right there. But what I like seeing are my clumps of sedums. Their heads are really getting large. We're starting to see some color in them. With the lushness of the asters, I have so much yet color. I'm afraid about these cats, what's going to happen. But I just noticed that there's a little bloom of aster, which will give us that nice color we need. The cleomes, I let them go to seed because I like how they just show up. They show up, they throw their seeds. I don't worry where they go. I don't put them in the compost because you don't want their seeds in your compost pile because they will seed themselves everywhere. You can see a little bit of pink starting to form on this sedum.
Yeah, one of my favorite little things is sedums.
They're gorgeous.
In the fall.
Look at this.
In the fall, yeah.
The fall of the year, the colors are beautiful. This daylily I want to divide and put another clump to the head of the garden just so you can see some color. Those lovely pink, delicate flowers in the back under this pergola that's covered also by my morning glory vines doing what it's supposed to do. Those are my surprise lilies, and they just show up unexpected, unannounced. Their foliage dies down in the spring. They look more like a daylily bloom, and similar to this, a little thicker leaf. They all die back, and then 2 weeks ago you start seeing these nice little spikes, which adds a nice little surprise, hence the name Surprise Lily.
Mm-hmm. And the rose is looking good.
Yeah, that knockout rose, you can't beat it. It continues to bloom all season long. You just have to realize that this time of year in a perennial border, it looks lush, and you have to wait for the next flush of color. So as we move behind you, you can see the grasses will start showing their plumes, which will add a nice touch too. And I leave those plumes throughout the season for the birds to eat on the seeds. With this rain, my fern and hosta bed that surrounds this huge willow tree has just stayed lush. The hostas have not burned. The ferns have not died back.
Caladiums look good.
The caladiums have done exactly what I'd hoped they'd do, bring your eye back in here. And then I love having a pot of flowers right now, this time of year, in the center of this bed, so that it can be a show to draw your eye down under this tree to the foliage. And I do something similar back here with this pot by just tossing a little Impatient. That salmon color just seems to be soft enough to draw your eye back here. And this whole pot, when this is finished this fall, goes back in the garden. I love this. I'll probably always have this fern hosta pot. I think it just keeps everything very natural and draws your eye down to what's important, which is the river, which I love. It's a great, simple way to fill a pot with what you already have. So as we go down past the border, there's a few other things that we can show you that's doing great this time of year. Survived the heat. The astilbes are still in bloom.
No, they're not in bloom. Listen to her.
They fooled Reggie once, but not twice.
Okay.
The astilbes, I did spray paint with white spray paint, and it worked. It looks fantastic. I'll do it again. Maybe next year I'll do it in pink to bring even more color. Anyhow, and that is doing fantastic. The heucheras I planted, you can't beat that chartreuse color. Look how bright that is. You know, I've gardened for so many years, and every year you learn something and you see something different in your garden. Now back here, this is fantastic. This is my anemone. I was hoping that it would be in bloom. It's a white anemone. And the cool thing is, I was at the Fix Museum in Pittsburgh, and my friends and I were walking through their borders, and they had so many of them. I asked people who live there, could I dig 3 of their starts? They said, sure. So we dug 3 of their starts. They gave us a little plastic bag. And isn't that a nice souvenir for free? That I'm hoping this takes the whole border. But here's another amazing pot with things I have, my ferns, my hostas, but look at these beautiful white and salmon impatiens and this black potato vine. The pot is what's amazing, just gorgeous. But under this tree, this time of year, it really adds so much to an all green border. I just love this time of year. It's cool, it's comfortable. And then we'll end up over here showing you the last of my vines. Look at this vine in comparison to the other 2 vines. These leaves are huge. I wasn't concerned about blooms on this vine. I can't remember the name of the vine.
The morning glory.
A morning glory vine. Anyway, it did what I wanted it. This hard edge is now softened, and my neighbors don't have to look at that hard edge, and I know they love it. And it started from a seed. It's fantastic, amazing, and this will be gorgeous till fall too. And you can see it's probably going to have some blooms, but that wasn't my purpose. I just wanted the vine to do what I wanted it to do, and it did it, and I'm happy. There's a few blooms coming out on my beautiful iceberg rose white, so that'll give me a little pop of color. But that is the border right now in August. I love it. Get out, be thankful for what's in bloom, and we'll see you in the next video.